we start in Washington State, where in the final hours of their legislative session, state lawmakers passing budgets on Thursday to fill a multi-billion-dollar hole with new taxes, reserves spending, and one-time transfers, plus some cuts. Let's take a look exactly what they passed for their two-year budget for 2025-2027, $77.9 billion to $80.2 billion in spending. Transportation spending going from $15.6 billion to $16.7 billion, and capital spending increasing from $7.5 billion to $8.5 billion. Now, one measure that was part of the contentious debates in Washington State included a provision to tax the income of millionaires, and the House debating that measure for over 24 hours straight before sending it to the governor's desk. Now, Washington State residents have rejected an income tax on the ballot 10 times over the last century. We're going to be talking in more detail about that with Carlene Johnson, the Center Square Associate Editor out of Washington Monday. So be sure to put that on your calendar and join us then. But during the legislative session in Washington, Democrats also eliminated tax exemptions for prescription drug providers and data centers, providing a little more money to help Democrats ultimately expand spending by $2 billion. And as the team from the Center Square reports, in Washington, almost half of that is to help pay for the state's rising legal liability, which the legislature struggled to address in their session. Now let's hear some of the debate on the floor of the Senate in Washington State about that income tax proposal that would tax millionaires more than 9% on their income of over $1 million. Democrat Noel Frayne and Republican Mark Schulzler, they debated this into the Washington Senate floor.
But I do think that over the next couple of years, before this fully goes into effect, this tax is not effective until January 1st of 28, with collections not coming in until 2029. We have this advisory work group that's going into place. I really hope that once this has passed, that we can focus on getting it right for the people and businesses of Washington State.
I represent the wealthiest districts in Spokane County. You look at my map from Idaho around, $1 million homes left and right. And we're going to give their kids a free meal. So we're going to give rich kids free meals out of an unconstitutional income tax based on this.
Again, the question of the constitutionality of the income tax provision that was approved, that's going to last for months and months, and as you saw there in the debate, the provision not taking into effect for several more years. So between now and then, you can expect a lot of updates from the Center Square reporters out of Washington State. But as they continue to report on that, Democrats saying that it's the right move. Washington State Senator Jamie Peterson praising the passage of the income tax provision on millionaires.
We passed the millionaires tax, which is going to make sure that small businesses are getting the biggest tax break in history. People are not going to be paying sales tax anymore when it goes into effect on grooming and hygiene products, on over-the-counter medicines, on diapers, adult or baby diapers. We have a way to fix an upside-down tax system that's been plaguing us for 90 years and provide adequate revenue that we can make investments in things that the people of our state care about.
Now, big question in this ongoing debate, and likely going to spill out into the courts as well, is how it will impact small businesses. The National Federation of Independent Business, representing small businesses all across the country, and they have Washington State Director Patrick Connor raising concerns about how this measure Washington passed in the final hours of their legislative session will impact those small businesses in Washington State.
We're particularly concerned about the millionaire tax because we believe that it targets small business owners, specifically those businesses that are organized as what they call a pass-through entity, meaning that an individual business owner reports their business income as well as losses on their personal income tax form. So sometimes fairly easily, a business could have gross receipts in excess of $1 million. However, those business owners are taking home a salary that is far, far lower than that $1 million threshold.
Clearly, some of the questions will persist even after any kind of court battles that are ongoing from that particular provision in Washington state. But Washington Governor Bob Ferguson saying it is just one of the many things that he pushed for to get across the finish line.
The millionaires tax, obviously, I called for adopting that and was specific that, hey, we need to put a significant amount of the revenue from the millionaires tax back in the pockets of Washingtonians and business owners. And by any fair measure, they did that as well. In my Say the State, I specifically called out the working families tax credit to increase that, and they increased it to the tune of adding 460,000 families across our state will now receive the working families tax credit. Check literally in the mail between $300 and $1,300. Big tax break for business owners, and all the other things you saw in the millionaires tax of dollars back in the pockets of Washingtonians.
Now, the question again, will this stand constitutional challenge? Be sure to get the newsletter in your inbox, including headlines from Washington State, by going to thecentersquare.com.